everyone, welcome back to Reading with Tatiana. This is my June wrap-ups. I was able to read 6 books. I had 2 4 out of 5s and 4 5 out of 5s, so it was a great month of reading. Before I get into my wrap-up, I want to do my Booktuber shout-out to Literary Gladiators. I came across their channel recently. It's a really neat channel because instead of one Booktuber, it's actually a compilation or a collaboration of a bunch of Booktubers coming together to share different types of content. Really neat, and I will share their channel down below if you want to check them out further. And as always, before I go into my wrap-up, I would appreciate it if you like my content to hit the subscribe button, and if you can give this video a thumbs up, and also leave a comment down below if you've read any of these books that I got to read in June. The first book I read was Still Running by Vanessa Jose Goddard. I gave it a 5 out of 5. However, I do want to caveat this is a very niche book, and you definitely have to be someone that's into mindfulness, meditation, and or running. And it was really good for me because she shares her story with running and meditation and how she kind of gels them together to be mindful and be present in your running. She talks about technique of running, she talks about being still in running, and she talks about how to gain that level of meditation and peacefulness while running. I really enjoyed this book, but I recognize it's not for everyone, so I gave it a 5 out of 5, but for you, it may not be for you, but it is a short read, so if you have time and you want to check something outside of your norm, I would recommend this read because a lot of things she says can apply to other aspects of your life as well to bring you some more stillness and some peace. The second book I read in June was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I gave it a 4 out of 5. This was my first Emily Henry book and I am hooked. I can't wait to read her other 2 books that people have been recommending. So if you don't know what this book is about, is we meet Nora. She is a book agent and she's always been left by men who go to a small town for work and leave her for the small town girl. So then we can get to meet Nora and we get to hear the other side or the villain story and the usual cheesy romance. And it's just a really great book because for me, I enjoyed it because it was literally like a romantic comedy movie but in book form. Like I really hope they pick this up and make a movie of it. It was funny because even though she identified lots of like really cheesy tropes, it still happened to her, but in a way it was funny and also like, hey, that's just life. So I don't want to spoil the book too much, but it's definitely worth reading and a 4 out of 5. And one thing that I really enjoy about this book too is the focus not just on the romantic relationship, but also her relationship with her sister in the book as well. The next book I read was part of my monthly book club here in Calgary. It was True Biz by Sarah Novick, and I gave this book a 5 out of 5. This book was really eye-opening for me because we follow a story of a student who is hard of hearing, and she usually goes to a regular school and now she enters a fully deaf school. And here she meets fellow students who are different levels of deaf in terms of can speak, can't speak, uses a cochlear implant, doesn't use them, and she actually doesn't know how to sign language. And it's just really cool because this book opened a lot of different perspectives for me. And in the end of each chapter, Sarah, the author, also puts a blurb or kind of like a tidbit about ASL or about hard of hearing, which I thought was very informative. So this book I definitely recommend if you want a way to change your perspective about the deaf world. The next book I read is A Woman Is No Man by Etaf Rum. This was a easy 5 out of 5. It's also Etaf's debut novel. So if you like books like Pachinko, I think you will love this book. It's a multi-generational story of a bunch of women from Palestine and how their lives were impacted by the Palestinian diaspora from living in Palestine to coming to America, believing they'll have more freedom since leaving their home country, but actually having less freedom in America. And it's just like such a heartbreaking book. And Etaf does such a good job writing all the women's stories and the difficulties in the book. And I just think this is a must read. So if you have the opportunity, definitely read this book. Leave the World Behind by Rumaan Alam. So I gave this book a 4 out of 5, and it's very surprising for me because this book I actually picked at my library just by looking at the cover because I thought it was super interesting. Didn't read the synopsis in the back, and it was great. It's a thriller book. We meet this family who goes to a vacation home, and then one day the host of the Airbnb they're renting from comes back and says there's a power outage in the city, like can we stay here for a night? And it's a thriller because you don't know, like, are these actually the hosts? Do you have an ulterior motive? Is what they're saying true? Is there a power outage? And the book kind of alludes that it's more than just your usual power outage. So this is a really great book because it's kind of disaster thriller, and the book itself, when I read it, wasn't like the most enjoyable and page turning, and it did feel a bit slow. But why I gave this book a 4 out of 5 is because the concept of the book kept me thinking after I finished it, and kept me thinking about what would happen if I was in the situation. So, sometimes when you read books, maybe it's not as entertaining when you read it, but if it gets you thinking after, I think that is also a really great read. And last but definitely not least, the last book I read for June is The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. I gave us a 5 out of 5. So we meet Linus Baker, who is a caseworker for the department in charge of magical youths, and he goes to different orphanages to make sure magical youths are being treated fairly, and then not poorly. And he's just kind of this boring guy, very routine, nothing exciting, has a cat, lives by himself. Anyway, so one day he's sent to an orphanage on the island, and here he meets 6 magical youths. And I don't want to spoil the book, but it's just a really great book because it's a bit of fantasy and science fiction. And for me, because I normally don't read these kind of genres, it would kind of remind me of Harry Potter, just in the way he meets these magical beasts and the way he interacts with them, and also the way his life changes. So this book was really good, and also if you're someone that really believes in that queerness should be also acknowledged in reading, you'll probably enjoy this book too, because TJ Klune is an author who really believes in having characters that are of the queer identity. So definitely worth reading. Thank you for watching again until the end. I'll also link all my videos of my full reviews for these 6 books down below. Always appreciate it if you can hit the subscribe button, give it a like and a comment as well on if you read these books, or if you have recommendations for me for July and August. I will see you guys next time, and again, thanks for watching. Bye!